carrera de Geografía que va a ofrecer la Universidad Central, y posteriormente ya continuaremos con nuestra conferencista magistral, Alina Ristia, de la University College of London. Así que adelante, Vivi. Sí.
Bueno, muy buenas ya noches. Bueno, creo que sin duda el Congreso Nacional de Geografía y asimismo como otros eventos para compartir el conocimiento geográfico son estos espacios que no solamente nos permiten conocer sobre los avances o el progreso de la investigación en materia geográfica, sino también es un encuentro de las diversidades en el amplio concepto de la palabra. Y creo que este tipo de eventos sobrepasan o se sobrepasan a sí mismos porque incluyen la organización, la previa, pero también las redes que se van tejiendo a partir de este evento, y eso es lo rico de estos eventos. En estos 2 días hemos tenido alrededor de 45 mesas temáticas, sesiones con temas desde lo urbano, lo rural, género que acabamos de tener hace un momento. Y creo que estos 200 participantes que hemos sido, hemos podido compartir en un espacio ameno, un espacio seguro y un espacio de cuidado, que ha sido posible gracias al equipo del comité organizador. Muchísimas gracias, Andrea, María Fernanda, Pablo, y al comité académico. Hay muchos nombres y personas que en este momento no están aquí, pero han estado detrás del evento. Al equipo de moderación, muchas gracias por estar con nosotros en todas las sesiones. Al equipo de apoyo de Flaxo y sobre todo a los y las estudiantes que han hecho posible que todos estemos distendidos, muy cómodos, y que todas nuestras presentaciones hayan sido posibles. Gracias a los chicos del staff que están por ahí. Muchas gracias. De ellos son los aplausos. Y bueno, creo que este tipo de eventos se hacen en condiciones complicadas, no solamente a nivel social, político, económico, y esto permea en todas las dimensiones de la vida. Y la geografía no es la excepción. Como disciplina pasamos por unos momentos difíciles, pero a pesar de eso, los territorios, sus complejidades, las amenazas, sus resistencias, están ahí presentes, fuera de las puertas de la universidad, y evidencian esa necesidad que hay de los abordajes multiescalares, de estos abordajes y acciones diversas y críticas. Y sobre esto, creo que ha habido instituciones, organizaciones, colectivos, desde lo institucional y lo no institucional, que han estado de diversas formas sosteniendo a las geografías. A pesar de no contar, como ya hemos dicho, con geografía en pregrado y estas condiciones difíciles de la carrera ahora o de la disciplina. Es así que estas organizaciones que han estado sosteniendo de manera institucional o no, han sido parte también de este proceso de construcción del Congreso Nacional de Geografía, y a quienes extendemos nuestros agradecimientos, al Departamento de Territorio también de la Flaxo, al IPGH, a Geografía Crítica del Ecuador, a los otros compañeros de Cuenca, el Yactalab, a IQIAM, al Instituto de Geografía de la Universidad de San Francisco, al Colegio de Ingenieros Geógrafos. Son varias instancias que han estado empujando o colaborando o haciendo presencia en el evento, y eso es lo importante. Así que estos tiempos demandan un replanteamiento, hemos visto, constante del quehacer geográfico, y particularmente en la formación geográfica, y eso incluye la formación en pregrado, que es la formación raíz de los y las geógrafas que necesita el territorio y la gente. Y entonces, como Asociación Geográfica del Ecuador, nosotros reiteramos nuestros agradecimientos a Flaxo Y también saludamos todas las iniciativas que nacen desde los distintos espacios, especialmente desde la universidad pública, para encontrarle ese espacio tan necesario a la geografía y a las geografías. Así que eso, sin nada más que decir, quiero dar la bienvenida y el agradecimiento por la presencia al doctor Rafael Polo de la Universidad Central, quien nos va a brindar también unas palabras.
Buenas noches a todos, a todas. Viviana me ha invitado a presentar rápidamente la futura carrera de Geografía Humana que se va a hacer en Universidad Central. Y voy a contar rápidamente el contexto de esto. Hace 6 años atrás se creó en la Universidad Central, en la Universidad Pública, la Facultad de Ciencias Sociales y Humanas, y hemos entrado en un proceso de renovación total, de reestructuración de las disciplinas en ciencias sociales, con el fin de formar en pregrado con suficiencia crítica, con oportunidad histórica, con pertinencia teórica, a sociólogos, a politólogos, a historiadores, a antropólogos, a geógrafos. Hemos hecho un programa bastante extenso de invención de carreras en una universidad pública que no lo ha tenido. La universidad pública en el Ecuador no ha tenido la carrera de historia, no ha tenido la carrera de antropología, no tiene la carrera de filosofía, ni ha tenido la carrera de filosofía. Nosotros nos hemos empeñado en que estas carreras se den en la universidad pública, se den en la Universidad Central. En este momento ya tenemos aprobada internamente la carrera de historia, la carrera de antropología, está en la segunda revisión para entregar en 15 días aproximadamente la carrera de geografía. En la segunda revisión tenemos lista la carrera de arqueología y lista también la carrera de, se me escapa una, ¿sí? De historia del arte. Entonces estamos en un empeño bien fuerte. Hemos pasado de una facultad, de una escuela pequeña, donde teníamos 80, 100 estudiantes, a una facultad de 1.300 estudiantes empeñados en hacer ciencia social, y nosotros hemos advertido la necesidad de incorporar a la geografía, ¿sí?, con sus estrategias teóricas, metodológicas, con el análisis necesario de hoy de los problemas del territorio, del uso social y de la construcción social de los espacios, ¿sí?, como una suerte de ayudar a una reflexión más crítica, más interdisciplinar desde las ciencias sociales sobre las condiciones y las formas de vida contemporánea. Yo quisiera presentar más extensamente eso, sé que se me terminan los minutos, pero la idea nuestra es que la carrera de geografía en pregrado se conecte directamente con instituciones de investigación geoespacial del país, y al mismo tiempo estamos generando vínculos con instituciones extranjeras. Lo que hago es simplemente dar una noticia. Ahora no quisiera hacer una ponencia de cuál es la línea crítica de geografía que nosotros estamos proponiendo, pero estamos incorporando acá la línea brasileña, la línea inglesa también. Con nosotros tuvimos la suerte de tener en la visita durante una semana con nosotros, incluyendo cierto trabajo de geografía crítica de David Harvey, que trabajó inicialmente un bosquejo rápido de esta carrera, de manera que esperemos que el próximo semestre o el próximo año ya tengamos ofertada públicamente en la universidad pública la carrera. Muchas gracias.
Les invito, Rafael, tal vez nos tomamos una foto. Tenemos aquí nuestro fotógrafo. Quiero que todas las geógrafas profesionales que nos dedicamos a los sistemas de información geográfica, a las ciencias geoespaciales, mostremos esta unión, y aquí también con la conferencista magistral, así como la foto que nos tomamos con Fernando Carrión, vamos a hacer con Alina y también con Fernando. Sí, sí, porfa, les pido que se paren, ya saben lo de la foto, ustedes también se unen para acá, y los de este lado, un poquito para acá. Allá. Si en el cuarto de control nos ayudan bajando la luz del reflector, por favor. Sí. Sí.
Porque este tiene un carácter distinto. No, pues,
Sí, ahí en el centro. Ahí, en el centro. Alina, en el centro. Sí. No, sí, todos los asistentes.
pero yo
Muchas gracias.
Se le envió a la señorita Emi. Muchas
Ya,
gracias,
chévere,
señor.
sí. Muchas gracias, sí.
Me bendiga.
Vayamos de ya, ya sí, ya está. Aquí tengo. Pero alguien se va a estar moviendo. Bueno, muy buenas tardes con todas y con todos. Gracias por estar aquí presente en la conferencia magistral de Alina Ristia de la University College London. Alina tiene una carrera que yo diría meteórica. Antes de venir acá a Ecuador, estuvo dando unas conferencias y cursos en Suiza. Y de aquí ya sale después el día lunes, se queda un rato en UK y sale enseguida a Estocolmo a dar otro congreso sobre crime analysis, ¿no? Es un privilegio, Alina, tenerte aquí. Es un largo viaje que has hecho. Le ha gustado mucho el Ecuador. Creo que ya quiere quedarse. Siempre vas a ser bienvenida. Y bueno, sí, te voy a dar la palabra, Alina. Ella se va a presentar de una manera más detallada. Va a hablar en español, también va a hablar en inglés, pero bueno, ella les explicará, es una dinámica. Saben que uno a veces con el idioma que uno trabaja del día a día se siente más cómodo en dar exposiciones académicas, ¿no? Alina entiende el español muy bien y también sabe hablar un poco de español, pero bueno, ahí ya le doy la palabra a Alina, un aplauso.
Hola, buenas tardes. Gracias por venir esta noche, porque sé que son las viernes de la noche y tal vez quieren pasarla bien y no sé, a ir a cenar, bailar o algo. Así que gracias por estar aquí. Ok, ahora nos vemos. Como Pablo dijo, hablo español un poco, entiendo muy bien, pero no es el idioma que uso todo el tiempo y nunca aprendí español como de cursos o de la escuela. El español que ustedes escuchan ahora es española de telenovelas. Es verdad. Todo lo que digo ahora es de las telenovelas, porque cuando estaba joven, mi mamá, veíamos telenovelas en la televisión en los años 2000. Y así es como aprendí, porque parece que el cerebro de los niños aprende sin saber que aprende. Así que con los subtítulos en rumano, y ellos hablaban en español, telenovelas mexicanas, telenovelas de Argentina, así es como aprendí a hablar. Sé que algunas veces no es correcto, no puedo encontrar todas las palabras que necesito cuando hablo, por eso no tengo un español académico. Y por eso hoy voy a presentar solo el primer slide que es de mí. Voy a presentar dónde fui y qué hacía en español, pero después La parte académica la voy a presentar en inglés, pero mi inglés, me dice la gente aquí, que es muy buena y como común y fácil de entender porque no hablo rápidamente. Pero después de 5 slides, si le parece que no entienden nada de lo que digo, son muchas imágenes en la presentación. Pero si no entienden lo que digo, solo si ponen la mano arriba, voy a ver que no entienden y yo voy a tratar de explicar en español, ¿ok? Pero vamos a ver que de nuevo no soy muy buena a explicar académicamente en español, tampoco en rumano, soy de Rumania originalmente y ahora dar una clase o presentar algo en rumano es muy difícil para mí porque todo mi trabajo es en inglés. Ok, de mí, como Pablo dijo, sí estoy no tengo una casa muy estable. Ahora estoy en Londres, ahora estoy trabajando en Londres y estoy lecturer assistant professor allá. Pero antes finalicé mi maestría y mi colegio a University of Bucarest, Rumania, el este de Europa, si no saben dónde está, cerca de Ucrania, Rusia, Bulgaria. Sí, tuve la maestría y el colegio, después trabajé como investigadora por 2 años y después me mudé a Salzburgo, donde finalicé mi doctorado en Applied Geoinformatics con el tema de Crime Prediction using Social Media Data. Durante mi tiempo en Salzburgo también tuve diferentes visitas por muchos meses en otros lugares, como son las que les ves arriba allá. Estaba viviendo en Krakow, en Polonia. También fui en Simon Fraser University, Vancouver, Canadá por unos meses. También tuve el chance de estar en Louisiana State University con un Marshall Plan Scholarship por unos meses y trabajar allá, y también University of Virginia, Charlottesville, Virginia State. Pasé un tiempo en los Estados Unidos, también en Canadá, en Polonia. Y después de mi doctorado, que lo finalicé en 2019, me mudé a Boston, Massachusetts, en los Estados Unidos, y ahí trabajé como un postdoctoral researcher, investigador postdoctoral, creo, por 2 años. Y después me mudé a Londres, donde me quedo ahora. Sí, en Inglaterra. Y soy muy feliz de estar aquí en Ecuador. Como Pablo dijo, me gusta todo, me gusta la gente, me gusta la comida, todo lo que comí aquí. Desde que llegué me gustó, todo fue muy bueno. La naturaleza y todo lo que tienen aquí, creo que son muy suertudos. Un poco embarazante, creo decir. Sí, como les dije, es muy difícil para mí hablar español y tener todas las palabras, pero sí que lo trato. Y creo que es importante también en cualquier idioma, si quieren hablar inglés o si quieren hablar francés o otro idioma, creo que solo necesitan un poco de vencer su miedo. Eso es lo que hago yo ahora en frente de todos ustedes con mi español de telenovelas. Gracias. Muchas gracias. Okay, now I will change to the academic part and to my keynote that we have today. Again, if after 3, 4, 5 slides you do not understand me, please just raise your hand and I'll be doing my best to speak in Spanish, okay? Good. I decided to start with this phrase here that 80% of the data that we have is here they say the organizational data, so like from the municipality, is spatial. And you can see that in the early 90s, people said that. So imagine what it is nowadays when we have so much data, right? So also nowadays we have even more than 80% that has a spatial component in all the fields. So you can always find something spatial, which means spatial is really special, and us and other people, so academics, people that are outside working in municipality, private, public sector, we're all using spatial data. And for sure you are familiar with the laws of geography, maybe at least with the first two. Maybe the third one is a bit new. Also for me, it's a bit new also because it's from the last years, right? The first one from Tobler's law, right, where they said that everything is related if it's closer, so it's more related as it's closer. The near things are more related. The second one, Tobler came and said, as a, let's say, a continuation of the first law, is that the phenomenon external to a geographic area of interest affects what goes inside that area of interest, which makes sense, right? We can think about them like, oh, this guy kind of simple now for geographers. And the third one, the third law of geography that I said maybe is not that common now, is from 2018, 2020. And they also call it the law of similarity. And what the authors say, they say that the more similar geographic configurations between 2 points are, then the more similar the status of a target variable. What does this mean? This means, let's imagine we have crimes in 2 neighborhoods. Those 2 neighborhoods are very similar from an economic point of view, similar from the point of view we have many bars, we have many pubs in both neighborhoods. So if we take a location of the neighborhood, will be similar with the other one. And what is the target variable? Let's say we want to predict something. And when we predict something by using the information from the 2 locations that are similar, also the target variable will be similar. This is what they are saying, and they are also showing some proof, empirical proof in their work. Yeah, so we have these 3 big laws, but we also know that spatial data needs spatial attention because we are talking about different autocorrelations, different spatial phenomena that maybe some people who are using spatial analysis do not understand. Reason why? Geographers or spatial data scientists, people who know about space, are needed in all multidisciplinary team because they understand the phenomena better than someone, for example, that will do computer science but will not do computer science with a specific in the spatial phenomena. Is it okay in English? Yes? Okay. Okay. So that was my intro, and I thought I always, when I create a presentation, I always try to tell a story, and always the story fits more or less the people in the room because I'm trying to fit everybody. So let's say the first half maybe would be very interesting for someone, maybe the last half will be more interesting for the other ones, that the first half is not so interesting. And it always as it goes. It's the same when you are teaching. Sometimes your students want to know just the end part or no, or if you are teaching, I'm teaching law enforcement a lot in England. I do a lot of consulting for the police. And I know kind of what they are interested in. And also they are coming from different police forces. Let's say you have Metropolitan Police from London, you have South Yorkshire Police in Central England. They come with different knowledge because what they do in their offices is different. So then when you teach, sometimes some of them already know something, some of them don't, and so on. So you are trying to fit everyone at least at a certain point of the presentation. That's what I try to do for today. And I try to start talking about geospatial data, what it is, what we have nowadays, big data, which type of big data do we have and what it means. Then I will be discussing a bit about machine learning and AI or GeoAI, geographical artificial intelligence, where we add our spatial side, and some opportunities and challenges, and what can we do to avoid this bias in algorithms, right? Because we have so many algorithms nowadays, but there are also a lot of biases that sometimes we maybe are skipping when we run our prediction models or any models. So, geospatial data, we're all using it, right? Geospatial data is any data set that has something geographical, can be the coordinates, can be the name of a town, of a city, of a word, of a census tract, and so on. And we usually use vector data and raster data. These are the most common ones that we would be using in any geographical analysis, right? And for all of them, location is the key. That is what we are interested in mostly. The data nowadays, our environment became a super rich data world, right? A data environment. When we have administrative data, we have climate data, we have social media, we all have phones, we all have smartphones. You know how much data, how much cell phone data is there for the companies that you are using, like I think I bought a Claro SIM card. Do you know how much data they have and how much they can create your trajectories from the data set where your phone is and so on. So there is a lot of data out there nowadays. What I was saying about the mobile phones, that is dynamic data. Why? Because you also have space, you also have time, and this dynamic is changing. Same for social media, is something that changes. However, if we think about the building of Flaxo or any other building, is a building that stays there. So that building that stays there is a static, it's part of a static built environment data set. Geospatial analysis in the big data time, big data, we have a lot of data, large volumes of data. Sometimes we don't know how to analyze them, we don't know how to process them, but there are so many tools, technology is advancing so much, and I think we should not be scared of using it. There are limitations and biases, but this doesn't mean that we should not be using what we have, because with what we have, we can also get more optimization in our time. It's the same with thinking, for example, nowadays while we have ChatGPT, some people are scared of using ChatGPT because it's artificial intelligence, it can be, maybe it's not good and so on. However, I think we can use and make use of these tools and optimize our time, but at the same time, always take care and be responsible and be clear about the biases that we can get from artificial intelligence. What we have nowadays, we have this structured data set, but also unstructured data set. By structured data set, you can think of everything you have in a table. Let's say you get a table, you download it, I don't know, from the municipality, let's say the census tract, right? You have a table, you have your census, you have population data and so on. So you have your structured data. However, what we have nowadays is a lot of unstructured data, like social media data. So 20% would be structured. This is what the researchers found, 20% structured, 80% unstructured data set. So yeah, social media, different screenshots that we have, images, video that come together in a database, but not in the form that we want, a table with all our attribute table and perfect for any analysis. So the data can be quite messy nowadays and unstructured. Then the authors, the researchers are always coming together and saying that big data has 3 V's, 5 V's, 7 V's. They cannot put everything together. So I put all seven of them. 7 is the maximum that they say for big data. And they say that big data is clearly large volume of data. Yeah, we have volume. Velocity means how fast can we analyze or put in databases that it can be real time, near real time, or not real time, right? Variety is a variable data. We can have veracity, how accurate the data is. Visualization is very important. I will be showing you some dashboards later on, and how valuable the data is for you as researchers or for you as people working in the private or the public sector. The value is very important. What does the data bring to you? So I think always think when you do an analysis, what does the data bring to you? What's the value at the end of your analysis? And for whom is helpful? So having so much data, how do we combine everything? Because they can have different attributes, the data can look different, right? So we can integrate it based on attributes. We can have a data fusion if you have different data sets, like from sensors, Internet of Things. You can use machine learning and AI to connect data sets. You can use cross-domain analysis, so have data from different domains and so on. So there are various ways that we can use to get different data sets together. And most importantly for us as geographers, in space. How do we put everything together in space? For example, for data integration, when I was working back in Boston, in Massachusetts, we had this large database that you can you can see here, we had a lot of data. We had data from social media, we had Foursquare, we had points of interest, administrative data, Airbnb, Craigslist, and so on. So as you can see, it's really a bunch. So then the question was, how do we put all of them together? And at which geographic unit can we aggregate? Because this is also very important for us as geographers and also for anyone that does data science or spatial data science, better said. What is important is the unit of analysis. For us, the unit of analysis in Boston, the smallest one possible as a polygon was that land parcel that you see there in that graphic. And then from the land parcel, you can go to street data, census block group, census tract, and so on. So we decided, and we had the chance to have all these data sets and manage to connect them at such a small polygon at the land parcel level. So that is data integration. You have all of them and you have find a way to connect them. But what about this data fusion? This is a very interesting project that I did when I was in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. What happened here? What can you see here? So here what we see is a route that we took by car. So we drove that route with many people multiple times. And those people that were our participants were wearing a wristband. There were video cameras on the car, so to get videos all the time with GPS. So the video had GPS enabled. And we were also discussing with them, so we were recording their voice. So we had data, sensor data, remember, video with the GPS. We have the time from the interview because we record everything. So we have all those data sets. Then what you can do is you can put what people are saying. For example, you see there, yes, Greyhound is very unsafe. Maybe some people here, I don't know if you ever used Greyhound in the US, can be dangerous sometimes. Still useful. I use it many times. So they said it's very unsafe. I took it twice to go to New Orleans. So you see what the person said. You also can see on the video where the person was saying and having that information. So you have space, time, written text from the interview, and you have all the information from the wristband. What if the person is sweating? What if the person has higher heart rate? So you can have everything together. And then researchers from Salzburg, what they did from the wristbands, they created an algorithm that is extracting moments of stress. So what you see here is a hotspot analysis of moments of stress. And we can see where the person or the people, where they had different moments of stress in our, on our route. Right? And you connect this one with the videos, you connect these ones with what the person was saying, and then you can get different types of information compared to the usual geospatial analysis we do, right? So this is a data fusion type of work that we did. Our final goal was to discuss more safety perception between different people, students, city officials, and academics, and see how this is different in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So that was an example of data fusion. Nowadays, we have all these dashboards that are very, very easy to understand, very simple to understand, very nice and graphic. And many of them have machine learning in the background in order to create different types of analysis. And you can have graphics, you can have maps, you can have on the spot and real-time analysis in a dashboard. You can download data, sometimes not from all the dashboards. So you can do a lot with the dashboards nowadays. And if you have any project, I would suggest to you to try to create a dashboard. If you want to present it, I don't know, to someone from municipality officials or so on, is very helpful. We did something like this with the emergency services in Boston, and it was very nice. They enjoyed it very much. So this is nowadays for visualization. Then having all the geospatial data that I was mentioning and additional others besides what I mentioned, there is this big hype discussing artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, but sometimes we feel that we don't know which one is which and what is the connection between them. Reason why I have this graphic here for you, and you can see that everything is under the umbrella of artificial intelligence. That is, includes all the techniques, that enable modern nowadays to solve different problems. And in artificial intelligence, we can discuss about machine learning. We have some examples, neural networks and deep learning. Many times we have deep learning and neural networks together in some discussions, right? So the deep learning being a subset of machine learning and also artificial neural networks. Why they're called like that? Of course, we're talking about the neurons like the human brain. So this would be the schema of the big artificial intelligence that we keep talking about nowadays. But there is something else for us as people who are using space, is the GeoAI, Geographical Artificial Intelligence. And there is a book that I put there actually this month, I think, just come on the market, is a handbook of geospatial artificial intelligence. And they are talking a lot about ethics in geospatial artificial intelligence and types of models, and how do we treat space in all these models. So that would be for us as people who are using space, integrating space in the models. Then for machine learning, we also always talk about supervised learning and unsupervised learning. And I thought of adding this here is another schema that is important for people who are using technology to understand the differences between having something supervised and something unsupervised. And everything is about the data that you put as input and what you want as output. So unsupervised, you see there, we have a lot of examples of clustering. Let's say you have social media data. Let's say you get a text and you put the text from social media data in a model. Let's say what we are doing a K-means, and you just want to get some clusters from your social media text in order to create some topics. So it will be an unsupervised model there. Right? So supervised and unsupervised, and you can use it for prediction, you can use continuous variable, or you can use categorical variables for both ways. It just depends. Always you choose the model based on the data you have and what you want to find out about it. This is a schema that I just really like, because it's, I think for us as spatial scientists, let's say, is a combination that the authors did here. Geography, like the big umbrella of geography, is like the big umbrella of artificial intelligence. And I really like the comparison they did here. And if you want, machine learning would be geospatial big data. And that includes, and then all the theories and everything is like on the deep learning theories, but then we have the spatial theories. So GeoAI is data-driven. Yeah, we should not be scared of data-driven models, but also I think it's always important to consider the importance, important to consider people, the knowledge from people, so the experts. The experts are very important. These models wouldn't work without someone who is also an expert in the team, in the diverse team that hopefully works in a certain model. What the others did here, I think, is a very good summary of what we have nowadays. There are nowadays these categories that you see here about geocomputation and GeoAI. And there are applications in mapping, but they're also valid. They're valid for prediction or for everything that we use in geographical artificial intelligence now. So what the others said, they said we have data for building an environment. You can see some examples. I think they're a little bit foggy there. But you can see some examples of building an infrastructure, the natural environment, social media, and social issues and human activities and land use activities. So they discuss, I recommend you read this paper if you're interested in the topic, because they discuss a lot of papers that are following different models of machine learning and artificial intelligence for these certain categories. They're very important categories. And besides those categories, we can also discuss about trajectory prediction, that paper that is up there, the first one, what they were doing, they had the data from the cell phones in Italy. So I was saying earlier about cell phones and how important the data is. So they got the data from Vodafone Italy, and they said, okay, what we want to do is to predict the trajectories of tourists. So then we know when someone arrives in Rome, what will be the first touristic attractions where they go, and how many people are going there, and the nationalities of the people that are going there. So then we would know which approaches to take towards tourism, to increase tourism in certain areas or to decrease it. If it's too much tourism, you know, it can be also very disturbing for residents. So it's a type of research in tourism that I think it's very interesting to get this type of trajectories and see where people are going. Then the other one, again, on your phones, you have your location. Let's say if Google Maps is activated, it will activate and it will know you are here now, wherever you will be next hour and so on. But sometimes it's losing connection. And if that happens through machine learning and AI, you can create the connection. You can predict where was the person here, for example, between 10 and 1, while knowing where the person was in the days before, but also during this day. And of course, there are a lot of predictions related to COVID. As expected, there was a lot of work, a lot of work during COVID. And also, I think you can realize that during COVID is the moment when many people notice how important space is. Because during COVID, we also had a boom in the number of people who are using spatial analysis. You had all the COVID dashboards with spatial analysis, all the reports in every country included information of space. So I think it was a moment for geospatial data science or for geography or for GA science or GIS, is a moment when many people realize the importance. And also on the market. So if you're looking for a job, I mean now for students or so, if you're looking for a job, they are looking for this type of methods. So it's important to go with the flow, go with the technology, because it's important for any analyst to know all this. Okay, so machine learning and AI models, we have regression models, we have classification models, we have clustering models. And mostly we're using AI for predictive analytics or for object and image detection. Today, I will show you some examples from crime prediction because this is my main work, and I will not be going to object recognition or image recognition, but we will be talking about, I will be showing you some examples of crime prediction. The difference between prediction and forecasting, I just put it there because forecasting means when you predict in the future. Prediction is a classification that I would predict this chair is blue. Is not in the future. I just predict that the chair is blue because all the other chairs in this room are blue. Yeah, so that would be prediction. Forecasting is when you know something that will happen tomorrow, in 2 days or so. Explanatory models versus prediction models. In prediction models, you always train a model. The model learns and then the models predict. While in an explanatory model is the moment when the model is just telling you which features would be able to explain a target variable. So they are different, they are similar but different. And coming to something that also Fernando yesterday during the keynote speech discussed about espacio versus lugar, space versus place, it's important to always consider that space, we consider the geographic space, but the place is the space with characteristics. So if it's a neighborhood that has a lot of bars or cinemas and so on, and maybe it's in the downtown area, so that is what defines that place. So it's a place in a geographic space that would be an X and Y coordinate, let's say. So there are these differences that we also add in prediction models. Time is important if you want to do something dynamic. So it's also very important. And nowadays we add a lot of space and time characteristics and not only space. So we should not leave the time on the side. And for the basic regression models, because sometimes people, when they think about machine learning, are a bit scared that you need a lot of data or you need very difficult machine learning techniques. You know, machine learning techniques start from the most simple ones to very advanced. You can even have a linear regression. You can have a logistic regression and predict some categories, and you can use those ones for in a sense of machine learning way. So it's not necessarily to have many gigabytes of data for your prediction, just for you to know. Of course, it is important if you use big data, but depends on the data set, on the input. So before I show some examples from my work and work of colleagues and what we are doing in crime prediction, usually when we think about prediction, how we start a project, we think about the data we collect, understand the data. So you see, I didn't say only pre-processing. I said data understanding and pre-processing, because I feel that sometimes the understanding part doesn't exist because we rush into modeling without thinking about our data sets. So here's data understanding and pre-processing, then choosing the correct or the best models for prediction, and then always evaluating your prediction. So that is the base as we think when we start a prediction model in a new project. The applications in crime analysis for these prediction models. Which data sets do we use as input generally? We use police reports, police data set, crime data set, what you need to know everywhere in the world, but more in some places than others. Data quality is a problem. We also have, besides data quality, some crimes are underreported. Yeah, so especially if you think about domestic abuse, highly underreported, sexual assault, highly underreported, and so on. So this is something that we always keep in mind when analyzing crime data and when predicting. We are using sensors, we are using different crime maps, different density estimations, we are using social media, cell phone data, of transportation flows, and so on. So everything that is possible in a dynamic way, in the space and time way. Space and time cube. I'm sure that some of you know about the space-time cube. Here is an example of using S3, ArcPro from S3, and doing a space-time cube is not my map. The authors here are using a data set from Porto, and they wanted to see for a period of a few years if they have some emerging hotspots of crime, if they have some cold spots of crime, if there is a new hotspot that is getting there or not. So what this space-time cube does compared to your normal space, normal spatial hotspots, is that it also considers the bins of time and the information, in this case, crime. So you have your X and Y coordinate, you have when it happened, when something happened, and you have what happened. My case, this case, crimes happen, but you can have something else there, right? You can have information about floods, you can have information about earthquakes, you can have information about any point data that you are interested in, and not only point data, but any event you are interested in that can be added in this model. If you want this model for a specific context, then something that is of my particular interest is about working with stadiums. I'm interested in analyzing crime and disorder around the stadiums when a sporting event occurs at the stadium. And that's also my PhD about, and that is also what I'm doing nowadays. So most of my research is about sporting events and what happens before and after. So what we have here is just a simple example about, is on baseball, is in Chicago, and we have these 3 kilometers around the stadium, and we wanted to apply the space-time cube and say, okay, what about the game days? What about comparison days where nothing happens around the stadium, And you have a map on the left, a simple one during game days and one during the comparison days. What can we see there? Definitely, we have a lot more crime. And not only that is more crime, we have some sporadic hotspots, but also some new ones. New ones, meaning that in the last months of our analysis, in Bridgeport, there was a new hotspot getting created there. So this means that we talking with police and law enforcement, trying to understand what changed in the neighborhood, because something must have changed. It's not only the game, because it's something new. Maybe there are new bars there. Maybe there are new other crime attractors. So then we need to understand what happened in that place in order to have more crime. So that is on a specific context. How many of you know Minority Report movie? Yeah. Okay. No? Okay, this is from 2002. So this movie is from 2002 with Tom Cruise, and they were predicting crime and everything, and sounded a little bit crazy. Well, nowadays, the technology, is increasing. So we are getting there. We are getting there. So 20 years ago, they were thinking it's crazy. Nowadays, we don't think it's that crazy anymore. Nowadays, we do predict crime. Here's some examples. I want to show you some examples about predicting crime. So predicting crime using social media. We are getting from social media geographical information, time information, and text. What are people texting? And the first paper, one of the first papers showing the importance of social media in crime prediction, is the one on the upper left from Matthew Gerber in Chicago in 2014. So he shows that only by using the location and different topics from social media, from Twitter he used, he's showing an improvement in prediction models. Same in some of my work in Chicago Bulls, we also showed that for some specific types only, if you use different subsets of Twitter data, you can get a better prediction. And here some authors created the crime telescope that actually is also now, I think from which year is 2018, is still valid, that link. So you can go online and you just check, and it's predicting automatically. So it is a tool, kind of a dashboard that is still valid. I have some methods in behind. So we prove that for some cases, social media improves prediction. Again, it's not for all crime types, and we always need to think about that some crimes are difficult, are underreported, okay? The second example, I wanted to show you this with ensemble models, where what the authors did was to combine different models. So an ensemble model means that is a machine learning or artificial intelligence model that is combined. Like this one is a neural network combined with a logistic regression, but you can combine multiple of them, a random forest, the super vector machine, and so on. So you don't have to go only with one model, you can also have multiple ones put together. Those are ensemble models, and here the authors are showing in their research that they managed to predict crime better with these two together than having them separately. This is not always the case. Don't imagine that if you have three models together, they will be better than one. It's not always the case. Okay, so this is why you always need to evaluate your model, and it always depends on the data you use and how you train a model for prediction. What they are doing here, they are using neural networks with image data and weather data. So they extract information from images, from Google Street Maps, and they are also adding weather data and historical crime data in order to predict crime. And they are showing that they manage. So what is this? Is a data fusion. Remember, we were discussing at the beginning, I was saying about how to integrate different data sets. So they use a data fusion model, and they put everything together, and they show higher predictive accuracy for their models compared to other baseline models. Another one, and this nowadays very important to use human mobility in crime prediction. By human mobility, what do I mean? I mean any flow of people that you can measure. So you can measure with mobile phone data, you can measure taxi flows data. This is what they used here. They also used subway data. So you have the information, how many people enter the subway at this station, how many people exit. You have time, you have space, you have how many people. So all this type of information of human mobility, you can add in prediction model, and then you can predict locations of crime. You can predict number of crime, or you can predict, will there be a crime in the next hour, let's say, or in the next week, or in the next 2 weeks, or so on. The systems that they use in the law enforcement, I wanted to show you, is Predpol. They use Predpol in LA for many years, I think from 2010 to 2019 or 2020. So what they were doing, they were predicting crime with some machine learning, artificial intelligence in the background. It's a private software, so we don't have the code for it to check what exactly was doing. So they were predicting crime. You see, they were saying, okay, in those squares there will be crime. So they were sending police to police those certain locations. In the last years, why it stopped? It stopped because it seemed that it's kind of biased and there were quite some ethical issues, and the Los Angeles police said no more of this Predpol. Although it is created by researchers and also by one big name in criminology, but they decided that it has some flaws. Similarly, an example from Rio de Janeiro, they are using Crime Radar and has a big similarity with the Predpol. I think it's still ongoing nowadays. And they also predict crime in those locations. You see the squares. So then it's very useful for police allocation. So where do you send your police officers on the field? ShotSpotter. So this one is also for directing the police in different locations. It was called the risk router before, and it also gives pre-patrolling information to police officer, is again also showing in space and time what will happen based on some machine learning and artificial intelligence parts. Risk terrain modeling, you add a bunch of data and it's creating risk areas. If you work on something else than crime, this is very useful. It's very useful for health analysis, if you do homeland security, for disasters and so on. So risk terrain modeling is a very good tool for creating risk surfaces. I will not go through these ones because they are for more personal predictions. So instead of predicting the locations where crime would be, this is the risk of recidivism. This is the risk of a person to be an offender in the future. And also all these algorithms were considered very biased. So practically based on the number of times that the police stopped you, if you were ever in jail, if you have a certain trend in your criminal activity. So based on all this, you get some points, and then they say, okay, this person will be offending in the future. And they are very biased. Seems that in the US, there is research that is showing this type of algorithm are highly targeting on Latino population and African-American populations. So many of them are stopping now. We have this, I said, bias and discrimination. We have privacy concerns in prediction models in crime analysis. We always have over-policing. So if you do some hotspot analysis, or let's say when they were using Predpol, there was a problem of over-policing the areas where there are a lot, where the crime is predicting. So when you over-police an area, you know, so then you can have other problems. So there are this type of problems that we have, also reinforcing of existing biases. If you go somewhere where there is a crime multiple times, you are just reinforcing it. And again, in the US, we have absolutely a lot of problems with African American communities that are highly targeted by these police tools. I did wanted to say something, because we talk about crime and we talk about crime in the physical way, so what happens. But nowadays we have a lot of cybercrime. And although we think from the geography way, in cybercrime, the space is kind of indefinite, right? So it can happen anywhere. We can talk about fraud, we can talk about scammers, we can talk about cyber stalking. It can happen from Thailand to here. Maybe someone is cyber stalking you from Thailand to Ecuador. Maybe someone is, I don't know, from Romania to Australia. So it can happen anywhere. Okay, so then the geography of cyberspace is difficult to really put it down as we would say, okay, is a hotspot here, is another hotspot here. You cannot really do it like that. So it's a different way. So we are adapting the models from crime analysis, crime prediction. We're adapting it nowadays in the cyberspace. And we have at UCL, where I work, we have quite some researchers that are working in cybersecurity. Then to end, I put here if we are ready for the future by knowing all the crime prediction algorithms, what they do, knowing that we have a lot of data nowadays, a lot of information, a lot of privacy concerns too. Are we ready for it? We have a lot of opportunities. Again, I would always encourage you to not be scared of technology, but also to always be careful and responsible and ethically correct and fair and transparent, and also try always to address biases in your work. The opportunities that we have nowadays with machine learning and AI, concluding what I just said by now, we talk about predictive analytics, we talk about object recognition, we can also detect different anomalies, we can detect a lot of patterns. For resource allocation is very important, like resources, as I was saying about police. So for us, it's very important in resource allocation, and also is a decision support. This is why I was saying I'm working a lot in consulting with the police for their decision support and for helping them understand also some extra points from the methodology point of view. The challenges I put the most important ones, but maybe there are more, and they are also more based on what's your field of interest. But the challenges are usually about privacy, the data quality, which data you are using. If you ever use crime data, always pay attention if it's underreported, if you have a geo-privacy over your point, where is your crime? Because sometimes you know if you have your crime here, if it's a geo-privacy applied over the crime, it will not show you it's here because it's not correct. So it will put you somewhere, let's say around an area, around the 100 meter, 200 meter. So your point data will not be exactly where the crime is. The point data will be somewhere in that area. Bias and discrimination, racial bias, hate crime, other biases, other types of discrimination. The cost and accessibility is, do you have private data? Do you need to buy it? Can you get it in a contract? How do you get these data? We have a lot of open data nowadays, but not everything is open. So it depends what you need to use. Be careful when you interpret your results and be transparent about your results. Sometimes they are not what we expect. Computational requirements if you work with big data, because if you work with big data and you need servers, I don't have millions, billions of rows, you would need to have a higher computational power. But again, you can also realize some predictions without having a lot of billions and hundreds of gigabytes of data. And ethical and different legal considerations. About legal considerations, always think about in which country are you working, in which region are you working, and what are the laws there, and also the laws of the datasets that you are using, because it depends everywhere. So I've been in many parts of the world, as I was saying, and all the time I had to learn something else. They can be addressed. I will be ending with addressing the biases in prediction models. It doesn't mean that they are all biased and we cannot do anything about it and they will just be there and we just have our limitations. And I recommend you this book. It's 2018 or 2016, I think it's 2016, if I remember well, from Cathy O'Neill, very good, Weapons of Mass Destruction. The author is there discussing a lot of different biases and different problems that occur. And we can address biases as much as we can for now. We need to use the diverse and representative data in prediction or in any analysis that we are doing. For me, because I work in crime analysis, we always try to also discuss with the community. So we also have community engagement when we take different measures with law enforcement. So also see what the community says. And I know that some of you, or many of you, are also social scientists. So as a social scientist, you would want to know what your community or your neighborhood people would want in their place. Always evaluate the models, always have a clear evaluation, a transparent evaluation, and make sure that your models are explainable. Now you might be telling me, okay, I'm reading about explainable AI, but not everything is explainable AI. I'm not talking right now about explainable AI, I'm talking in general about having something that you can explain, because if not, it will still be a black box that you don't know. You have the result, it looks good, but you don't know exactly what does that mean. So always remember yourself also from big data, or the value. So what is the value and what it means? Diverse model development teams, that's one I wanted to mention, because it's good when you work in a company or in academia with people that are multidisciplinary, because then they see something that you do not see. I'm a geographer, I'm a trained geographer. I'm working with computer scientists, I'm working with engineers, I'm working with social scientists, and they see something I do not see when I work on a certain project. I work with law enforcement, I work with the municipality. They always say something else than what I'm saying. So it's very, very important to also be open to what the others are saying, and to have a team that will be complete, or as complete as possible, or as complex as possible, to better understand a phenomena that you are following, that you try to understand. So there is a lot of future for AI. There's a lot of technology out there, and it will continue growing. So it will not stop. It will not stop right now. Right now it's going up, up, up. So what I would suggest is for all of us to try to keep up as much as we can. Well, I disagree with that I found on my Instagram, where BBC was showing me the news that artificial intelligence could lead to extinction of humanity, experts one. I don't think it will be an extinction of humanity. I do think that we as humans just need to learn more how to work with artificial intelligence, and as put there, a little bit of human AI collaboration instead of AI taking over. I'm not a negative person, so I would not say that AI will really take over, but I would say that we do need to try to keep up with what is going on. And of course, AI is also impacting jobs and security. So always keep an eye open also about different societal changes that happen together with all the machine learning, AI, or any technology advancement nowadays. And that's all from me. I decided to add this. It's from outside. Maybe some of you saw it. It's very cute. So you see one of the kids or the young ones wrote there, más vida, más tecnología. So they also know the technology is growing and they are aware of it. So I think the new generations are coming and they know what to focus on. So I really like this, and I thought it would be a very good way of ending. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Alina, muy, diría que iluminadora tu presentación. Me gusta ese último slide del dibujo de los niños, porque empezamos a ver hace un rato detenidamente qué es lo que expresaban los niños, y era bien interesante que mostraban ciertas imágenes relacionadas con la informática, la robótica, la inteligencia artificial. Vemos que son ya generaciones que están inmersas en esta esfera, ¿no?, de cambios, dinámicas. Y creo que ese es el futuro. Estamos así preocupados del futuro de la geografía, y si en la geografía no nos centramos, no reconocemos la importancia de datos, yo digo, son datos, datos y más datos, cualitativos, cuantitativos. Hay un 80% que había presentado Alina de datos que pueden ser geolocalizados. Otros expertos dicen que tal vez el 90% de los datos puedan ser de alguna manera geolocalizados, así que el futuro es ciencia de datos, análisis de datos, obviamente sin perder este sentido crítico que debemos tener, reconociendo los sesgos que pueden tener los algoritmos. Y bueno, ahorita que vemos aquí el dibujo, también quiero agradecer al IGM y al IPGH por colaborarnos, ¿no?, con esta presentación de las obras de los niños y de las niñas. Se abre un espacio de comentarios. Quisiera dar paso a un par de preguntas porque nos espera un cóctel de despedida, de clausura del Congreso, así que abro un espacio para preguntas. Lo pueden formular en español, no hay ningún problema. Sé que puede haber muchas dudas y comentarios. Entonces, bueno, ¿hay alguien que quisiera comentar, preguntar? Por ahí también ya, algo muy bueno, positivo, es de que, desde mi perspectiva, desde Flaxo ya estamos formando una especie de task force en el sentido de análisis cuantitativo, espacial y de machine learning. Tengo ahí 2 estudiantes que ya, está el Andrés Betancourt, que está finalizando, ya define su tesis este día, martes o miércoles me parece, es de tema de machine learning. Por ahí también está el Jefferson, también machine learning. Entonces ya estamos iniciando este camino de análisis geoespacial desde el punto de vista de la inteligencia artificial. Justo ahí le veo otra vez a Andrés. ¿Querías comentar algo? No, ya. ¿Preguntas, comentarios hasta aquí?
Hola, ¿qué tal? Buenas noches. Primero que nada, increíble la presentación, buenísima, muy buena. Me quedé bastante, por favor, ¿me detienes si hablo muy rápido? O si... Ya. Me quedé bastante con el tema de los sesgos que puede haber en cuanto al trabajo que se genera en esto. Como todos sabemos, hoy en día estamos en una sociedad que es como que bastante sensible y que es fácilmente cualquier persona se puede ofender frente a cualquier tema. Entonces, cuando estamos tratando estos temas de crimen mezclado con tema racial, puede llegar a ser un tema bastante sensible. Entonces entiendo en las últimas diapositivas que pusiste cómo manejar este tema de los sesgos para poder llevarlo de una manera mucho más manejable. Pero también me gustaría saber cómo manejan ese tema de no ofender mucho a la gente al presentar los resultados, en cuanto a si es que se presenta que una zona puede ser insegura, si es que se predice que los crímenes pueden suceder en este lugar. Porque entiendo cómo manejan los sesgos, pero digo, ¿cómo pueden manejar el momento de presentar resultados para que esos resultados no puedan ofender a un grupo social que esté asentado en un espacio? Gracias.
Está bien. Gracias, muchas gracias. Voy a tratar de responder en español. Ahora, perdón que no voy a responder muy bien en español, pero vamos a ver cómo va. Sí, tienes razón. Hoy en día las personas se ofenden muy fácilmente y es verdad, pero sabes, todo el tiempo va a pasar. Cuando vas a presentar resultados, todo el tiempo en un cuarto, un anfiteatro como este, todas las personas, si estoy presentando algo en algún momento de mi investigación vamos a hacer, será el mínimo una persona que no se sentirá bien de lo que yo digo, pero todo el tiempo pasa. Creo que es imposible si tienes no sé cuántas personas en un lugar de decirlo en una manera de no ofender a nadie. Alguien se va a ofender, porque si algunas personas se van a ofender más, eso. Lo que sí puedo decir es que, ok, tú tienes tus resultados, si tú estás seguro de tus resultados, voy a decir que las puedes presentar en una forma, no decir, ok, aquí es el hotspot y estoy segura que allá son solo las personas malas en ese lugar y todo, y no tienes que pasar por allá y eso. No. Puedes decir, sí, el algoritmo me dice que aquí tenemos, no sé, una densidad grande de crímenes, de ese tipo de crímenes y eso, o yo puedo predecir que aquí son muchos crímenes, pero también todo el tiempo puedes tener algo extra. Como el extra vas a decir también, yo sé que esa zona fue overpoliced, tener extra police en ese periodo de tiempo que yo hago mis predicciones. Así que tal vez mis predicciones son también en relación con la overpolicing the area before. Así puedes ver que las personas van a ser, sí, así que no solo dice que mi barrio es muy malo y así, pero también reconoce que mi barrio tiene un overpolicing. If you know about, si sabes qué es overpolice. También lo que puedes decir, ok, aquí tenemos los hotspots, pero todo el tiempo puedes decir que, ok, social economic is low in that area. Usually it happens, and we know that there is a correlation generally. What you can always say is like, there is no causation in your part, because we know that correlations, o la correlación no es la causación. Gracias. So correlation is not causation. So si todo el tiempo también pones eso cuando presentas algo, porque es algo que tal vez unas personas en el lugar no saben o no piensan en ese momento. Creo que es algo que a ti te dan como clases a tener menos personas que te van a decir no, porque que estás, no sé, racista o me discriminas o qué es lo que pasó. Y todo el tiempo también, si usas predicciones, todo el tiempo pon al final de la presentación las limitations of your work or of your algorithm. So always add your limitations, because if someone knows that, okay, this works like this, you did your best, you can also say, I did this in the model trying to make it better. But if you put the limitations, you will see that in the room, there will be less people that will be against your model or thinking that you have something against them. For example, it's like you are raising awareness, but you are admitting what can be the flaws of your model. Maybe there are flaws, maybe they are not, but you admit they can be your flaws. So eso es lo que yo hago cuando presento algo y lo que recomendaría de hacer. Todo el tiempo piensa qué puede no hacer tan bien en tu modelo. Sí, gracias.
Hola, buenas noches. Muchas felicidades por tu trabajo. Una pregunta. ¿Cómo se podría motivar la participación ciudadana, ya que este fenómeno, como tú sabes, es de muchos actores? Y desafortunadamente, aproximadamente un promedio 7 de cada 10 delitos no son denunciados. Entonces estaríamos trabajando con un dato no real, ¿no? Y con eso realizamos las modelaciones y todo. ¿Cuál sería una herramienta adecuada para, primero, motivar la participación ciudadana? Y bueno, no sé qué piensas, hay un tema, no sé cuán útil sea el tema de Smart Mapping, que el objetivo de Smart Mapping es que en la red esté publicada toda la parte geográfica y eso permita a los tomadores de decisiones en un sistema, yo qué sé, analizar muchos factores. Estas preguntas, no sé, que una herramienta que motive la participación. ¿Y qué tal consideras el Smart Mapping, que es que en sí la cartografía web está en la línea, utilicemos los dashboards y todo eso para la toma de decisiones?
Gracias. Sí, te voy a decir algo que hacemos en Londres. Cada lugar es diferente porque context matters and context is different. So te voy a decir que para las personas que no quieren reportar el crimen a la policía porque tal vez no tienen mucha confianza en la policía, y sé que en unos lugares la confianza es even less than in England to the police. So trust in the police is really a problem. Y tal vez por eso las personas no quieren denunciar un crimen. Y tenemos unas como online platforms donde las personas pueden reportar, pero no directamente a la policía, un crimen de manera anonimizada. Así que si algo pasa, por ejemplo, daría el ejemplo de domestic violence porque creció mucho durante COVID. Y sí que tenemos personas que lo denuncian allá, que son plataformas online. Y por supuesto, después puedes preguntar que cómo saben las personas que son unas cosas online donde pueden anonymously report something. Sé que son diferentes como pósters en la calle o en el metro o en diferentes lugares o online y dicen, quieres reportar pero no te sientes confiado de reportar a la policía, puedes reportar aquí. Y la policía en Londres, puedo confirmar que ellos sí check this type of tools. So which tools exist out there for people reporting something that they say they do not report to the police? The police is also checking in order for them to increase their database that is already, as you said, you have underreporting, so then you can get some extra information from there and know when and where something happened. Even though you don't know who is the offender, you don't know who is the victim because it's everything anonymized, but you do know that you have more of that crime type that in your real data, you are like, oh, I only have 2. And then you see, oh, but here there are 10. So that is a way in order to increase people's participation. However, this does not solve the low trust in the police. this just solved that some people would prefer to report anonymously on different databases. So then there is a little bit of work on trust to the police. London has a lot lower trust compared to other police stations or police organizations in England for different reasons in which I will not go right now. But yeah, the Metropolitan Police is a bit lower on that. So yeah, this is what we do there. So I would say one suggestion would be for people to be able to report, but not to the law enforcement. Y el segundo, que es de smart mapping. So smart mapping, like having all the dashboards and so on. So I think it's a very good idea and is connected to what I said at the beginning, of lo que dije por la otra pregunta, que sí que podemos tener esos smart maps. Creo que también son muy fáciles de entender para las personas y también creo que son yes, I think they're very easy, they're visually appealing, and they are also maybe helping people in community to get together. But in order for communities to get together, you need a little bit of help from social services. I don't know how social services are here in Ecuador. Maybe, I don't know if they're the best or not the best, but I think social services are very helpful on community gatherings and community understanding of different phenomena. So I would say that the social services would have, or other services, I don't know if here there are other services, but I think you know which ones I mean, would be very helpful to get more the community trust compared to the municipality, government, or law enforcement that maybe they're considered corrupt or maybe they are not so well seen by the population. So I think all types of policies that are applied, maybe they need to be applied or help from NGOs or social services or other services that people trust, because I feel that trust is really important and very difficult to have. And again, some countries more than others. And yeah, so yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Gracias, Alina. 3 inquietudes. La primera, ¿se ha hecho este tipo de predicciones para el terrorismo? Segunda, una vez realizada la predicción, ¿cuál ha sido la reacción de las autoridades y del gobierno para disminuir ese problema? Tercera, ¿te has sentido amenazada por tus investigaciones? Digo, porque el hecho de detectar y de predecir a las organizaciones criminales no les va a parecer muy conveniente. Entonces, es una inquietud, ¿no?
Sí, muchas gracias. Del terrorismo sí son muchos modelos de predicciones, pero no como esas, porque el terrorismo no es como pasa, vamos a decir que alguien te roba el teléfono aquí, también aquí, también aquí. El terrorismo no es así, es diferente. También es un crimen, pero es diferente el terrorismo. Así que tenemos diferentes modelos que van a ser usados para el terrorismo. Y tengo muchos colegas at UCL en el Terrorism Research Group que están trabajando con la municipalidad, con Home Office y todo en Inglaterra en eso. Pero sé que ellos tienen otros tipos de modelos que son diferentes de lo que yo estaba presentando aquí. Sí se trabaja en las predicciones. Voy a decir de la tercera ahora, porque de la tercera nunca me sentí amenazada y nunca tuve problemas, pero sí tengo una colega a UCL y es muy reciente en los últimos meses. Ella está trabajando en human trafficking, en el tráfico de personas, y ella es muy importante en el field y tiene, por supuesto, unas opiniones de human trafficking, unas opiniones que tal vez no son muy bien vistas de unas personas, ¿no? Y ella tiene muchas personas que la soportan, que la apoyan, pero también unas personas que no. Así que en la social media, especially on Twitter, a few months ago, she got very, very bad reactions, but like very bad reactions, like threats like death. threats. So then we had to lock everything in the office, always pay attention who enters, always pay attention to everything more than before, because she was very threatened on social media because the work on human trafficking, because she started disturbing people. So I'm very lucky, soy feliz que a mí nunca me pasó, pero sí está pasando. Cuando estás trabajando con este tipo de datos y dices algo que no le conviene a quien no le conviene, puedes tener problemas. Todo está bien ahora con mi colega, pero sí estuvieron esos problemas. Y como te imaginas, se pueden imaginar, no es solo eso, es también para la persona como para mi colega, es muy difícil como emocionalmente, muy difícil ver cómo tienes todos esos mensajes de lo que las personas te dicen y que no son muy buenas. Sí, para mí no. ¿Cuál fue la segunda pregunta? Me olvidé, perdón. Sí. La intervención, sí, la intervención. Son diferentes modelos de policing. So we have different policing methods. Como yo ahora estoy trabajando, por ejemplo, en problem-oriented policing. Creo que tengo unas cosas de problem-oriented policing allá. Son diferentes modelos de policing y based on predictions and based on what we do as crime analysis, also the policing of an area is chosen. You can do hotspot policing, you can do problem-oriented, you can have intelligence-led policing. I'm not sure which type of policing is chosen here in Quito, but the policing is also based on predictions, not only on predictions, but on a lot of extra analysis. So we do collaborate. Luckily, in England, we do collaborate a lot with law enforcement and municipality in order to decide on this policing, and these policing measures. And it depends on the crime type too. You can give. So here I have. So also, I have to say thank you for the questions, but just to end, I have one colleague of mine. We have a department, actually a specialty in my department, that is the Latin American crime analysis. And my colleague Spencer Cheney is actually doing a lot of work in Latin America, not in Ecuador. So here his hotspots in Latin America. He's the lead on all this. He works in Uruguay, Argentina, Brazil, and there are a lot of models that we also apply in England that are applied here, but a lot of extras, because here in Latin America, crime patterns and hotspots and so on are different than in Europe. So context is really specific, and my colleague has a lot of experience in working in Latin America. And I have some things here from him. If you are interested to see about the works that we have, that the department has in Latin America, you can ask me about it, and you can get some of this. Thank you so much.
Muchas gracias, Alina. Seguramente sé que hay muchas más. Felicitaciones, Alina. Excelente charla. Sé que hay muchas más preguntas, comentarios para Alina, pero bueno, vamos a ir cerrando al menos esta conferencia. Afuera en el cóctel podrán acercarse a Alina, hacerle preguntas, a conversar. Para ir finalizando, bueno, primero Vivi me dice que hay espacio para la salida de campo al centro histórico el día de mañana, así que quienes estén interesados se acercan con Viviana de la Asociación Geográfica del Ecuador para registrarse. Quiero volver a agradecer a todo el personal de Flaxo que estaba detrás. Ahí tenemos a Oscar, Marco, están ahí detrás. Sí. Muchas gracias por todo su trabajo, Oscar, Marco. También quiero agradecer a Denise Albán, está también ahí, nos ha ayudado mucho toda la gestión del Congreso. Belén Torres no está presente, ¿sí? Y bueno, a todos los involucrados, las involucradas en gestionar y llevar a cabo este Congreso Nacional de Geografía. Con estas palabras damos por concluido la parte académica del Congreso. De nuevo les invito a pasar a la zona de cóctel, ¿sí? Y me estaba olvidando, perdón. Ese es el preámbulo. El tercer Congreso Nacional de Geografía es el preámbulo, lo consideramos todo un proceso de conexión con la comunidad y de proyección de la geografía a nivel nacional, regional e internacional desde el Ecuador. Por eso quiero hacerles una invitación al Congreso Internacional de Geografía. Es la conferencia temática de la Unión Geográfica Internacional, Thinking Geographies from the Global South, enfocada en América Latina, África y Asia. Bueno, por ella me contaba también María Fernanda que los neozelandeses y los australianos también nos dicen, no, nosotros también somos sur global. Ok, bueno, les vamos a invitar. Pero están invitados también académicos de Europa y Estados Unidos que hacen su trabajo de campo, sus estudios en el sur global. Va a tener ese enfoque también de plantear nuevas perspectivas, epistemologías desde el sur, ¿sí? Porque nosotros tenemos nuestra propia realidad, nuestros propios conceptos, ¿sí? Perspectiva de la vida. Y si eso le sumamos con el análisis de datos, la experiencia empírica de campo que nos ha dicho Alina, nosotros desde el sur global vamos a poder influenciar el norte sin ningún problema, ¿no? Así que invitados para el mayo 15 a 17 del 2024 a la conferencia. De hecho, ya comenzamos el proceso. Divulgaremos la página web de la conferencia y eso. Bueno, muchas gracias a todas y todos. Están invitados a cóctel. Gracias.
Solo una cosita, sigan nomás saliendo. El día de mañana las salidas de campo, quienes estén inscritos, la salida a Quitzato, Cayambe a las 8 de la mañana en la puerta de Flaxo y la salida al centro histórico 10 de la mañana, punto de encuentro en la Basílica. Así que los que estén registrados, ahí nos vemos. Gracias.
Andrea Carrión, por favor, que se le solicita que bajes acá. Para que nos tomemos una foto. Pero son los 4 y después con el